All right, I'm going to get started. Hi, everybody. My name is Alicia Price. I am one of the staff and guides and trainers here at OneTaste and on the Eros platform. Thanks to everybody who is online today and has joined us for today's Eros talk. We have been giving daily talks during the week, different faculty members, different people who work for OneTaste and in one way or another contribute to what we're doing here. As many of you know, our primary practice is Orgasmic Meditation, and we also work with philosophy that is loosely termed Eros and has like a definition and a philosophy that we work with. I'm going to be talking about that a bit today. I think most of you know me, some of you who are streaming in for the first time may not know me. I'll do a little brief introduction and then I'll get started. And then we'll do some reflections and possibly questions at the end. And like that. So again, thanks everyone for joining us. Hi, Kara. It's good to see you. Happy birthday yesterday. Yeah, so my name's Alicia. I'm one of the faculty members here at OneTaste and on the platform, and I have been doing orgasmic meditation for quite a few years now. I think it's about 19 years, and it's a foundational practice in my life, and it's a practice that I took up to be a welcome and needed complement that gave me the ability to directly work with and address my sexuality. I was already doing meditation and yoga and working with, various forms related to philosophy, Eastern religion quite a bit, and like that. And so I for sure felt that I was on a path. And for me personally, the path, I knew a few things. I knew that I wanted to be of service in the world. And I knew just a little bit about the concept of the Bodhisattva vow, where you are really wanting to be a person that helps to end suffering for others. And that was something that I knew a little bit about, and it moved me deeply. This was over 20 years ago. And then I had some major realizations about the fact that I was a woman and that I was a sexual woman, and that somehow in some mysterious, fairly unknown way, somehow that my sexuality and even my very femaleness related somehow to me being able to embody and access power and actually do the things that I wanted to do in the world. And I had a major realization, this was a long time ago, that I couldn't do that without knowing my sexuality and my feminine power in a very deep, practical, and real way, bringing it down from thinking about it and how to really enliven it and embody it and really be in my body with it. And that started me on my path. And that's how I ended up finding OneTaste. All my meditator friends were like, you should check out OneTaste. It's everything you talk about. And they were right. And so that was some time ago. And it's been quite a journey and quite a path. And I have done the practice of orgasmic meditation for quite a long time now, I'm grateful to say. And it has for sure brought me down into my body and into the experience of actually being with the potency of my feminine being, like I said, in a very embodied way, in a very practical way. And that has been incredibly valuable. There's a saying that we work with here that, women have forgotten that they are the jewel, the power, the potency, the ability to access mystical states. It exists within us. And I really feel that it's in us in a very practical, very embodied way. It's through the potency of our bodies. It's not in spite of it. And so I thought that it would be appropriate to talk a little bit about Eros and what we mean when we use the term Eros. Many of you who are on the call now know that Nicole Dedone, the founder, the creator of Orgasmic Meditation, and the founder of all the work that we do and the different initiatives, she wrote a body of work called the Eros Sutras. And they are sutras like you might find, in Buddhism or in other religions and whatnot, where it's really laying out in a practical sense. These are my words. In a very practical sense, it's like an operating manual or an owner's manual for how to navigate in the world, navigate the self, navigate how we relate to others, and actually be a part of a healthy, functioning society. And the sutras lay many beautiful things out, and it's a rich experience. Nicole has written other books. One is called Erotic Justice, and that's one that I have just started reading, and it is actually the thing that reading it is the thing that has inspired me to give this particular talk. And so my process for preparing for this talk was that I wrote down various notes, and I had some ideas, and I have things that I think about a lot, or I think that people should hear. I see you nodding, Becca. And and then I'm not ashamed to say I loaded what I had gathered into ChatGPT, and I said, I'm going to do an hour talk. How would you organize this? I didn't even say that. I was just like, lay it out a little bit for me. And here's the thing, and this actually, I really like this. It actually came up with its own title, which was Why the World Needs Om. And I thought I wouldn't have come up with that. And so I think ChatGPT especially is great at coming up with titles. And like I said, I'm not ashamed of it at all. It's a beautiful tool. And for sure, I know that it does some of the, it does the stuff that I don't want to do, but it doesn't replace transmission of experience or knowing. And so in a way, this is like, why the world needs Om, and also kind of like a intro to Eros, because I think that my experience, sometimes people will say, what does that mean? What do you mean when you say Eros? And so I have thought about it a lot and talked about it a fair amount in different classes and stuff like that. And, like when I think about various concepts, a little hack that I do, a little tool that I work with is I kind of already did this in the intro, was like, I think about something at the level of self. What's my experience with the level of self? And then I think about it like in like everyday relating. And then I think about it in sort of bigger, more abstract sense, whether it's like society or like creativity on the whole or something like that. And so when I was thinking about Eros, like, honestly, as an Italian woman, one of the first things that I think about when I think about Eros is I think about cooking for other people. And what I mean by that is there's an experience that I've had, and I imagine that most people who are watching have had this experience, but when you're having a dinner party, or even when you're cooking for a potluck or something like that, and you know that other people are going to be enjoying this meal that you're making, and there's something that happens that's bigger than when I put something together for myself. Somehow I end up putting more love into it. I end up putting more magic into it. I end up putting a little bit more care, or I am thinking, oh, this person likes that, or, oh, I know this person doesn't like onions, and it becomes something more than just putting a few ingredients together, or, putting a salad together that I'm going to scarf down before going back to work or something. It becomes something more. It becomes filled with something more than just the ingredients. That's one of the best ways that I can describe what Eros is. And then when, very often we're talking about it in the context of sex or sexuality or your relationship to orgasm. And I think probably also everyone has had the experience of a kiss that feels flat or like, sensationless or like nervous or awkward, or a kiss that feels filled with something more than what either of you are. That is Eros. It's the coming together in connectivity on whatever level of abstraction, where then something more is created. And and I dare say, even in the context of a kiss or in cooking, there's genius in it, because it's more than just me, throwing something together out of the idea of it. It's like the difference between, being in your day and, going through checking the boxes of various tasks, or having an inspired day where somehow different things came together and you feel buoyed or you feel moved by a deeper inspiration. That's Eros. It's the thing that I think truly moves: great creativity, great writing, great moments of passion or love, and then like a kiss with sex, you can clearly, like, I've had awkward sex that wasn't very sensational, or didn't, I was like, I'm not sure about that. Maybe I didn't, whatever, falls flat. You know what I mean? Not to make it bad or anything. It's not what I'm saying, but like it falls flat. And then there's moments where something bigger arises, and it's in its passion and sensation. And both people touch something so deep, and it's from that place of connection. That's Eros. And so we think about it, in day-to-day life. We think about it in creativity. Eros is the true spark. It's the true source of genius. There's plenty of art out there that I think, okay, and then what is it about it that sometimes people come together and they see a piece of art and everyone agrees that it's great? It has something that's been transmitted inside of it in the process of making it, and it's there, and that's genius. And for me, that's like Eros-filled creativity. Yeah, and I guess the next thing that I would want to try to say is that, just like the example of cooking and, for a dinner party, I believe that like Eros comes from connection. It doesn't just come from an idea. Ideas are important, and I'm not excluding, a brilliant idea, but then there's the bringing it down into the expression. Whether you're writing, whether you're bringing it as an idea, as an invention, or as a creation, there's bringing it out of the mind and then bringing it into being. And again, I think that requires a certain kind of embodiment and a certain kind of facility and a certain kind of power in the everyday, creation or creative processes in the world. I have spent years thinking about things and somehow not having the power to do them. And then I might be doing something totally else, and I might, get back into deeper practices with really getting into my deeper relationship with Eros inside of me and connecting through there. And then suddenly I feel I have more power to do things, genuinely do things. That's what we're talking about. Eros is about connection. It doesn't mean that you don't have moments of solitude and you don't have things that are yours and, you decide to share them or not. But I think that real creativity has to happen with some kind of connection. And I think that because that's my direct experience. I'm a very sensitive human being. I'm very perceptive. And I think I was taught by society that I'm an introvert. And so there's a tendency to kind of be in lesser states of connection because I feel so much. But I, for sure, am not an introvert. I'm not actually an introvert. I'm just a sensitive human being that can feel and that needed to do the work that I wanted to do to build more resilience, to be able to be really expressed and connected and get in the wonderful, messy soup of being with other people so that I could actually create and do things and bring things to the world. And that harkens back to what I started with. Like, it's wonderful to sit and read about what it is, what the Bodhisattva vow is about, but it's another thing to actually be in your body and operate in the world, from the desire, to have other people, have less suffering. How do we actually do that in a practical sense? How do we bring it down out of the abstract? I believe we do that through the path of Eros. Like, really. I've been reading the book Erotic Justice that Nicole wrote, and it's really lovely. If you haven't gotten into that one yet, I recommend it. It talks a lot about how we're operating in society today. And I think a lot about, so I've been around for a little while. I'm 50 years old now. And I remember before cell phones, I remember before the internet, I had a career before I even had a computer. And I have watched every step of the way as we have, gone online more. I remember when, Yelp was first a thing, and YouTube first became a thing, and then Facebook, everyone was like, wow, what is this? And now we spend so much time on our phones, and we spend so much time looking at screens. And for sure, there's the piece that I think is fairly obvious, where we spend more time looking at screens and less time just sitting and chatting. But I think there's also this tremendous impact that much media in social form has had on how we think about things and how we see things. And I feel really strongly about this. I feel that there is a bit of an epidemic of thought that is about staunchly digging into polarized beliefs and againstness. And that's one of the things that Nicole's book, Erotic Justice, goes into in depth. That there is such a tremendous focus on againstness these days. And it's not much of a platform for creating. And gosh, I have so much emotion about this. And I do, because I bring it down to the level of people that I actually know, who spend a tremendous amount of time on social media, and they're fairly invested. And mind you, this is a recent thing that they're invested in, like within the last couple of years. This is a recent way that they're invested in spending a tremendous amount of time resharing blips of information that they found online about this or that, this political party, this belief. There's a quality of modern activism, but I'm not sure how actively impactful it is. And they're really ready to share those viewpoints again and again and again. And if you sit down and ask them to share their feelings, they want to be able to do that. And I got to be honest, I have a real problem with that. I really don't like it. It really bums me out. And there's this, like, in the Erotic Justice book, it's talked about as like postmodern activism. And quite frankly, a lot of it is driven by, in Eros, we would talk about it in the place of Eros. So, ego, where it's like, it's operating from ego. And one of the main channels that it really transmits is outrage, righteousness, moral superiority. And those things replace actual discourse, actual conversation, actual contact, and actual connection with other people. And in its simple, it's not even simple, but at its purest form, just what it is, Eros and the erotic is not combative. It's about making contact. It's about being in a state of connection. It's not about, throwing modern day, tomatoes at other people in the form of, sharing Facebook memes about this and that. I think that the majority of the content that is shared in that kind of, subject matter, I don't think that it has much of a positive impact at all. And it's also in the abstraction. It's tossing around ideas online, and I know there are arguments that say, oh, well, people need to see this stuff, but I'm looking at it specifically through the lens of Eros, where it kind of is without the body. It's without the embodiment piece. And for sure, I know this because I know people where I see the stuff that they're putting online. I see the comments that they're making, and I see the interactions that they're having. But I know, because I've done it, if I were in a room with that person, it would feel totally different. The conversation would totally be different. It would be reasonable. There would be room for opinions. It's like a different reality in the online reality versus in-person reality. And so it's just this way that we spend so much time there, and it's so removed from connection. And again, I know that social media is a platform where real connection can be fostered. So I'm not down with Mark Zuckerberg, though I might like to teach him a few things. But I'm looking more at this big epidemic, and you see it so strongly on social media. And again, it just comes back to againstness. And I just don't know that it's really moving us in a great direction. I'm going to date myself again. I'm going to age myself again. I was listening to Janet Jackson today, one of her songs from the 90s, Rhythm Nation. So good. And it's literally people of the world unite. We can make a better life, and it's about togetherness, right, Shannon? Shannon and I are always on that Gen X channel together. Yeah. Thanks, Harold. But literally there's less singing the collective songs of togetherness, and there's so much of the separateness, the superiority, and the gist of what I'm saying is I don't think it's not very erotic. It doesn't create much connection. It's not a forum or a field or even a petri dish where many good things can grow. I don't believe that. And that's part of why I dove into the erotic justice book, because there's so much more to do there. And then I always weave back. This has been a thread in my life. I always weave back an aha around bodhisattva. It comes from embodiment and connection. It doesn't come from hate. And here's the other thing. I can't stress enough how the path of Eros and orgasmic meditation specifically as a practice that one takes on helps to bring a person down into their body and into greater and greater states of connection. And it for sure has been the pathway that's tethered me down into my body and given me greater access and also longer access to that kind of potency in my everyday world, whether it's in a meeting with people, whether it's with my family, friends, or even just walking down the street. And here's the beautiful thing, and this is what touches my soul really deeply. It's not abstract. It's not something that you just read about in a book, or that you imagine from mythology, when the feminine ruled. It's like, no, it's like you can actually walk down the street and being in my body as a woman, being in my rightness, being in a way where my system is open and it's transmitting and it's approving of myself, and there's a certain kind of integrated power. It has an impact on everybody that walks by. And I know I'm pretty great, but like every woman has this ability, right? I know, Dana, yes, I know you have it too. Like it's part of it's our natural state. It's not, it's literally like coming back to a natural state of being. And, there's this beautiful piece of art that someone shared with me recently. And I think there's different takes and different riffs on this, that it was like a woman, the piece of art, it had like a mythical, it was like, I can't remember the era, but it had a bit of a, it was from back in the day a little bit. And it was like a woman in a robe standing in a beautiful, empowered way. And on one side, she had a lion, and on the other side, she had a lamb. And they were walking with her. And to me, that is like a like symbolic representation of the embodied potency of a woman that is about being in the body and being in her sovereignty, where it brings balance to the natural world around her. And it brings, I guess I would, you could use the word, there's like a rulership, there's like, queenship, or however you'd want to say it, but it actually is part of like a healthy natural state of the human condition for us women to kind of be in that state. And so, looking at like a piece of artwork like that, it might inspire you. Gosh, oh, that's beautiful, or I feel something, or I know there's something in that. But then to say, okay, well, what is it going to take for me to embody my version of that? That's resonant with my reality on a day-to-day basis. I have had experiences where when I have been really like present, dropped into my body in a state that is both peaceful and clear and has a certain kind of presence and power. I'm remembering I used to live in Boston years ago, and I was walking down the street. I lived on the edge of the South End in Boston, right near Massachusetts Avenue. And it was right on the edge of, that's right, Kara, Boston. It was, right on the edge of where, it was actually right on the edge of like the gay people, and then like where it got a little bit more, not as nice of a neighborhood. And I remember I was walking to the bus, and there was a man standing at the bus station, and he looked quite disheveled, and he was really upset, and he was ranting quite intensely, and he was ranting at this couple that was standing there, and they just wanted to catch the bus. And and I was in some kind of, I had been thinking about bodhisattva and all that stuff, but so I knew I was about to catch the bus, and that was my neighborhood. I felt really comfortable, and so I just walked right up to him, and I was like, "What's going on?" And he stopped right away. He 100% stopped. And all I did was I connected with him with real presence and real felt sense, and with genuine like acceptance and approval. Nothing more than that. It wasn't like try to fix or try to stop or try to do anything. It was mostly just embodied presence. And he stopped right away. And the grimace and the upset and the kind of unhinged, craziness in his face just left. And then he was like, and he was like, and then he just kind of said something about like, gosh, those folks, they this and that and this and that. But it was like he was talking to me like a person. And that happened because I was in a state where I could actually connect with him as another human being. This is not a critique of that couple. They needed some love too. But like, again, like that's Eros embodied another human being. I really think that's what the world needs on a very practical level. A lot of that we do a lot of our work in community. Thanks, Russell. We do a lot of our work in community, and we work really hard, and we are working really hard to bring orgasmic meditation to the world, and get it that people see Nicole's books and all that stuff. And the thing that I think really powers us as a community and as an initiative, as a movement, as a business, is that we never come out of the level of embodied caring about the people around us. You can't stop caring about, if the person next to you ate or not. It's like people could say it keeps you humble, but I just think it keeps you embodied. Like one of the main sort of ideas about Eros is that it restores order, because if I'm in my body and if I'm in a state where I can feel, I naturally can feel when someone else is hurting. And for sure, I'm not going to seek to hurt them. And again, this is practical stuff. So for me, Eros and our path really is an antidote for all of the disconnection, for all of the outrage and the fighting, and the I'm this and I'm not that. And if you get some of the staunchest upset people in a room, and where they start feeling the other people in the room, a lot of that bluster is going to go away. I really believe that. I feel so strongly about that. A lot of the imbalance that we're experiencing, and I know this might sound reductive, but I'm just wanting to point to one thing. It's like a lot of the imbalance that we have in society is that we've lost connection to our felt experience as human beings. We're mammals. We are mammals, and we can feel other human beings. That's like our entire physiology on the physical level is designed in order to feel other beings, other humans, and in other animals. You know what I mean? And there's the imbalance. We work with it as the term tumescence, where we talk about tumescence as again, like I often do, I think, okay, how do I experience tumescence in my own body at the physical level? How do I experience it emotionally or mentally? How do I see it in my relationships and my relating? How do I see it as patterns in groups or in society, right? That's kind of my lens that I use a lot of the time with any of these different ideas or tools. And so tumescence is an imbalance of energy, or energy that is not quite flowing in the way that it would best serve me to do. And there's different ways that you can talk about it and look at it. And physically, it's an uncomfortable engorgement, it's discomfort. And for some reason, it's not flowing in a way that feels fluid and pleasurable. Emotionally, we can talk about it a lot as congestion. And then there's the imbalance of I'm maybe less in my body and more overactive in my mind, and it's the tumescent mind is running the show. And the tumescent mind has all sorts of ideas about what's great to do, and oftentimes it doesn't make decisions that are actually that great for my physical body or for connections I have with other people. And so I think a lot of the ailments that we're experiencing is this imbalance where there's a tremendous amount of tumescent mind running the show. And again, I love working on the computer sometimes. Like my mind is a brilliant tool. It's an amazing piece of who I am. And you can read this in the sutras. And this is like shocking to a lot of people, I think, and it goes against a lot of either conscious or unconscious biases that we have in like religion. But the mind is the servant of the body. It's not like the mind is the ruler, and then we either have to subjugate the body or get it in line, or constantly do penance or shut it down. Those are all mechanisms of the tumescent mind. The body is the fountain of the embodiment of power and eros in our daily experience, in our life experience, it's essential when we want to talk about human flourishing. It's essential. It's not the other way around. So sorry, mind, but and I've had lovely experiences of doing meditation. In Buddhism, there's a meditation called Tumo, and in a very simple sense, you're kind of dropping the mind down and you let it like melt down into the body, and then the energy from down below comes up and meets it and melts it. And I have had such a rarefied, lovely experience of in that process, the mind is humbled, and the mind goes, oh, thank you, body. I hear you. I'm here for you. And it's the body that is the radiant jewel. And it's our vehicle for doing all these wonderful things that we want to do. So, a lot of you here know the Om practice well, and Om Orgasmic Meditation does its own version of that, where every time you do the practice 15 minutes by 15 minutes, it drops you down out of the overactive mind into the body. For women, it drops you right down into your genitals, and the wisdom and the sensation, and everything that's there. And for men too, it drops you down into a deeply feeling state with another human being where you're listening. Again, where the mind is the tool for listening. And then you start to build those muscles, and have it be that kind of state of being, that kind of felt awareness, that kind of ability to feel another human being is brought more and more into your life. And Om gives women not just the idea of power, but it gives you the felt experience of your power. And it gives you the practice of connecting to it, not as dominance, not as performance, but the ability to sink in and feel the power where it's there. We're born with it. Other things that Om does, as a woman can drop into the experience of her body, she can learn how to communicate about what's happening or what she wants. And we've always said this in regards to Om, if you can name what it is you want in the arena of your genitals, for sure you can do it in a boardroom. Again, it sounds like, I don't know about that, but believe me, it's true. So Om, again, thank you, ChatGPT, why the world needs Om. Because it's an act of reclaiming the power of your body, through the actual felt experience of it. And it breaks all of the mental loops that we get into about how we think we should or shouldn't be behaving. Erotic justice isn't an idea. It's a felt experience. It's like bringing the wisdom of Eros, the wisdom of the sutras into your operating manual for how you approach, being in connection. Again, self, relating in your community and society. It's Om is a regular practice, like meditation, drops you down, drops you back in. We belong in our body. We belong with that relationship where the mind is the clear and willing listener of the body. And we were never meant to leave that location. I think we start there. And then, we get off track through, all the weird stuff that we're put through in school and all that stuff. We really disconnect from it. And Om brings us back to it. And then, the body is the one that's leading. It doesn't cause chaos and anarchy. It actually, it's quite lovely, kind of sets things right. And it sets right the experience of a woman's power being the potency and sovereignty of her body, and letting relating kind of happen from there. And that's why the world needs Om. So at this point, I will switch. I'll take a question, or I love reflections. And we'll do a couple of those, and then I'll end by just naming the couple of things that we have coming up next. Thanks, Kara. Does anyone? Matthias, go ahead, my friend.
Hello, and just to confirm, you can hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, so here's a reflection. Mind melting into the body, humbled and surrendered, listening for the muscles to felt experience of your power without restraint or apology. Name what you want for the flourishing of all starts here.
I love that. Name what you want for the flourishing of all. It does start here. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you as always. Becca.
That was so, let's see. That was so beautiful, Matthias. Yeah, such a beautiful distillation of your wonderful transmission, Alicia. I just wanted to say, here to everything that you've said. It's just a deep passion of mine. As a teacher, acceptance was the word I used. As a teacher, it was the background of everything I taught. That's how can we become more accepting, individuals of the other. And so the againstness that you said, that was a very, and I used to say, we make people wrong. Where am I making people wrong? And I think it's very challenging, because I notice in myself, I make people wrong, who are like, well, you're not being compassionate. You're not, I go there, you know what I mean? It's been a wonderful playground to kind of hone in on kind of the nuances of my own self-righteousness, and I had a wonderful opportunity to be with my two sisters, and one of the husbands on a 7-day cruise. They invited me because the other husband suddenly couldn't go. And both of them have very different politics from me. And, we never talk about it, so it's never an issue. And I thought, but I'd like to challenge myself to be able to talk about something about that, and not in a compassionate, loving way. The main experience I had was just total connection and wonderful and love being with my sisters. And the last day I realized that I can only do this one-on-one. And my sister was my roommate. And I said, okay, before the day's over, it was our last day. I just want to warn you, I want to talk about politics because I knew it. But it was, it was a beautiful, I just needed to be able to practice the total acceptance and still, holding my own, of what things that really I hold dearly, and to also see, I said, I want to see how they're holding theirs dearly as well. And it just is a different angle, that they're coming from. So I did have that chance, and it really was a beautiful experience in the end, to do, to practice being with people I love who feel very and think very differently. And I want to point to what you said that really hit me was, oh, these are abstractions, And when you're in the abstract world, there's all kinds of stuff like this. But when you're just being, there's just connection.
That's right, connection. That's right.
And acceptance, and love. So anyway, I just thank you for beautiful transmission. Thank you.
Thank you, Becca. Appreciate you. Anyone else? I'm looking here. Russell.
Just underscore a couple of things. I love this bit of a line from playing in the band. I can read your future. Just look what's in your hand. If people are watching videos, you can react, but you don't get any commerce back. You don't get any transition. You don't get any influence. And I think that Eros gives you the ability to work with uncertainty, and that people know that it's uncertain, and that you get to play in that field. And if you're just watching videos, it's just easy to start complaining, to be against, because it's like, because what the fuck? It's not. I feel something and nothing changes. So who cares? So
Yeah.
It's a really worthy effort.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your perspective with music. That really lands. Thank you, Russell. Rachel.
Hello. I just want to reflect that I always enjoy your talks. There's such congruence with what you're saying, the radiance you say it with, and the feeling in my body. And I just think that that's a really beautiful place to be. And I enjoy it all the time. And I especially loved when you were talking about the food and everybody just knowing, so grounded, knowing the difference between those two kisses, just knowing it. And then there's just no way, like, I know when I came into Eros first, it would feel like, oh, I don't quite grasp it. I don't quite understand it. I don't quite, you know, I know the feeling of it. I like it, but I don't quite understand it. And just that example is just so great because everybody knows that. Everybody has had that. And I just thought that was such a beautiful way to remind everybody that we all have it.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate you so much. Josie.
Yeah, hey, Alicia. I was noticing when you were talking about like the new kind of erotic justice, and not like just go out and hate everyone who's not on your side, but some way like dropping into creativity and just seeing that like so much on the spot for everyone right now. It's like, how do we get into creativity? Last year's art school was always just like, how do you create from here? What can you create from here? And it's such a challenging thing. But one thing I want to note is that in your transmission, I could feel how much you wanted other people to get it. And I could I'm like, oh, that's her bodhicitta there. It's like she has this secret, she has this thing, and she just wants to get it out, like, and she's trying all these different ways. It's just beautiful.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate
Yeah.
you. Kara.
Hi. I just want to say I really appreciate how digestible when you talk, it comes out in a way of like, okay, it makes sense to me. Even though sometimes, philosophies and such learning they feel like so in the distance, but you make it feel like right now and right here I can digest as much as I can, which is very powerful. The other thing is, I love that you kept referring back to the body and dropping into the body and because I feel like we're in our mind all the time, rationalizing things, like preparing for the next thing. And it's just like another reminder to be like, check in with my body. Like, what does that feel like? So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Kara. I appreciate you so much. It's good to see you on here. Dana, I think, take us out, Dana.
I heard this, and it's like the mind receives and the spirit catalyzes. And I know your bodhisattva heart, and I know the gift of your love since I was 12 years ago. And this felt like truly like an emanation, it felt like, I don't have words for it. It felt like divine love and truth. And it's so pure. And it's so true. And what you said about the embodied presence, it's not a doing. I'm so moved and touched to be in your field and guided. And you said this like what others have said in a way that like it was through you. It's the truth of this. I mean, it was incredible, the transmission and the depth, the purity, how it revolutionizes the world, and it's for flourishing for all. So thank you. Thank you for being a bodhisattva and being committed all these years to this work. I bow to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dana. Appreciate you so much. All right, everybody. So thank you. Thank you. So the one thing that I wanted to make sure everyone who's watching knows about is that we have a class this Saturday. It's the Saturday, July 19th. It's called the Introduction to Om, and it's through the platform. It's online live learning experience with teachers. It's going to be Karen and Eli, for those of you who know those folks. And we have quite a few registrants. It's going to be a lovely class. And the classes, we're actually offering this class free. So if you know people that have been curious about Om, they can tune in from literally anywhere and watch and learn online. So again, it's Intro to Om. It's this Saturday, the 19th. It starts at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And if we can get a link up from the, you sign up through the Eros platform. And we are going to start having it be that this class is behind the subscription member paywall. So if you know people that want to take a class with actual teachers to learn the practice, then see if they can take this class. It'll be great to have them. And that being said, tune in tomorrow and all this week for more Eros talks during the day at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And keep an eye out on the platform for other wonderful things we're doing.